to say it's usually the letters P, B, and M.
So much fun performing with Terry and talking to Jeff. And
12 years old, holding a pink rabbit puppet, she stood on a stage in front of millions and made America believe a piece of felt and fabric had a soul. That single performance would earn her a golden buzzer, a viral moment, and a title that followed her for the next 8 years. But here's what almost nobody talks about. The girl behind that puppet spent years quietly trying to figure out who she was when the cameras stopped rolling and the spotlight moved somewhere else. This is the story of what actually happened to Darci Lynne Farmer after the confetti fell. Long before the fame, Darci was a child who struggled just to speak. She was the kind of shy that made ordering food at a restaurant feel impossible, so she would hide behind her mother and let her handle it. Her parents tried everything to help her come out of her shell. They enrolled her in beauty pageants at 6 years old and signed her up for competitive gymnastics, hoping anything, would help her find her voice. Nothing quite worked until she was 9, competing in a pageant program, and met a teenage title holder who also happened to be a ventriloquist. Something about that performance captivated her in a way nothing else had. She begged her parents for a puppet of her own, and though they hesitated at first, thinking she already had enough on her plate, they eventually gave in. Just before her 10th birthday, they bought her a doll named Katie off eBay, and that small, almost accidental purchase changed the entire direction of her life. What followed was not luck. It was work. She practiced tongue twisters and vowel sounds, learning the mechanics of throwing her voice while keeping her own face still. Within a single month, she felt ready enough to enter a local talent competition, and she won. That early victory caught the attention of a professional ventriloquist who saw something rare in her and stepped in to coach her, eventually becoming her manager. He gave her one of the puppets that would define her act, a shy, soulful mouse named Oscar. A vocal coach joined the team soon after to help refine her singing. Between 2014 and 2017, she built a resume most adults in entertainment never achieve, taking regional and national titles, appearing on television specials, and even becoming the first child ventriloquist ever invited to perform at a major convention for professional ventriloquists. She was 11 years old and already being taken seriously by people who had spent their entire careers mastering this obscure, demanding art form. Then came May of 2017, when she walked onto the America's Got Talent stage holding Petunia, a glittering pink rabbit, and sang a song her father used to sing to her when she was small. She had switched to that particular song just a week before filming, a last-minute decision that turned out to be the right one. The performance was so seamless that the audience struggled to believe what they were watching. One judge was visibly moved to tears before hitting the golden buzzer, sending gold confetti raining down over a stunned 12-year-old, who later said the moment felt like she had left her body entirely. The clip spread everywhere almost instantly, becoming one of the most watched moments in the show's history. But the deeper story wasn't just that a video went viral. It was that a girl who once couldn't look a waiter in the eye had just stood in front of the world and commanded a room without saying a single word as herself. The momentum carried her through the rest of the season. She brought out an older sharp-tongued puppet named Edna to flirt playfully with Simon Cowell during a soul classic, revealing a comedic instinct that went far beyond technical skill. By the finals, Simon publicly predicted she would win, and on September 19, 2017, she was crowned champion, becoming the first female ventriloquist to ever win America's Got Talent and only the third ventriloquist overall to take the title. It felt, in many ways, like the full-circle answer to a story that began years earlier with a little girl hiding behind her mother's legs. Here is where most retellings of her story stop, and where the real story actually begins. Winning America's Got Talent does not hand you a check for $1 million. The prize is typically structured as a financial annuity paid out over decades, meaning the actual yearly amount before taxes is a small fraction of the headline number. Winners can choose a lump sum instead, but that option nets significantly less, with past champions publicly stating their post-tax payout landed closer to a few $100,000 rather than $1 million. Darci's family has never disclosed which option they chose. What she did share early on was where some of that money went, contributing to her church in Oklahoma City, where her mother served on the worship team. It was a small window into the values that would guide her long after the show ended. Rather than sign a young performer into a long-term Las Vegas residency, her parents made a deliberate choice to build a touring career instead, betting that flexibility would serve her better than permanence. Her father left his career in banking, and her mother stepped away from teaching preschool so the family could travel together. That gamble paid off. Her first major tour sold out and expanded, proving she wasn't a television moment that would fade in a few weeks. More tours followed, along with a holiday television special, a returning role as a guest performer on the show that made her famous, and a growing presence across talk shows and family programming. Her collection of puppet characters grew alongside her career, each one carrying a distinct personality, and Darci has said publicly that each character reflects a genuine piece of who she is. But growing up in front of an audience comes with a cost that rarely gets discussed. After graduating high school in 2023, having been homeschooled for years so she could keep touring, she did not rush into college or a predetermined next step. In interviews since, she has spoken candidly about wrestling with her own identity, admitting she struggled to figure out what she actually wanted for herself after nearly a decade of being defined by a talent show win. She has talked openly about anxiety, self-doubt, and the strange discomfort of craving ordinary life while living an entirely extraordinary one. Her faith remained a constant thread through it, even as she acknowledged that navigating a career in entertainment while holding on to that faith wasn't always simple. During the pandemic, when the touring stopped and she was suddenly alone with her own thoughts, she found an outlet in songwriting. That shift became impossible to ignore in 2024, when she stood on stage for America's Got Talent, Fantasy League, and performed an original song with no puppets at all. It was a risk. One judge pushed back hard, feeling the move pulled her away from what made her recognizable. But another saw it differently, respecting that she had trusted her own instincts over the safer path. She didn't advance past that round, but she made her point clearly, later explaining that the public had frozen her image at 12 years old, and she was actively working to grow beyond it. That original song became her debut single, followed by more releases over the next 2 years, along with a self-produced music video that won an award at a film festival. She also stepped into acting, appearing alongside a veteran actress in an independent film and later taking a small role in a major biopic that grossed over $30 million worldwide. She added voice acting credits to her resume as well, lending her voice to animated projects while still occasionally appearing as herself. Her personal life has stayed largely private. She mentioned briefly in 2024 that she'd met someone at a wedding, though that relationship reportedly didn't last. Around that same time, she moved into her own apartment with a friend and admitted, with disarming honesty, that living independently was harder than she expected. It's a small detail, but it says something important. Behind the tours and cameras, she was simply a young woman learning to navigate adult life for the first time, just like anyone else her age. In 2025, at 21 years old, she launched her most ambitious tour to date, choosing intimate comedy clubs over large theaters. The venues held only a fraction of what she used to fill, but that closeness changed the entire experience. She admitted the format challenged her because audiences could see her so clearly, down to the smallest movement of her mouth, the very thing ventriloquism depends on hiding. Yet that vulnerability became the tour's strength. It sold through at an extraordinary rate, with the majority of early markets selling out within months, including sold-out nights at some of the most respected music venues in the country. What becomes clear watching her career unfold is that her success was never really about the puppet. It was about discipline most people never see, memorizing lyrics while controlling a character's movements, staying in key while keeping her own lips motionless, making something impossibly difficult look effortless. Veteran ventriloquists have praised her technique as some of the best in the field, noting that her voice alone could carry a career even without the puppets. And yet, she still finds herself in an unusual position, too well known to disappear and reinvent herself quietly, but still young enough that much of the public expects her to remain exactly who she was at 12. She has said she probably won't do ventriloquism forever, but she isn't walking away from it either. Instead, she wants to keep building outward, more music, more acting, more of whatever comes next, while holding on to the parts of her that made people fall in love with her in the first place. She still drinks hot tea before every show even though she hates the taste, still calls herself an old soul, still talks about wanting a family of her own someday, though she knows there's time before that chapter needs to begin. What started as a shy girl finding her voice through a doll bought on eBay has become something much larger, a young woman still figuring out exactly who she wants to be, one stage at a time. The $1 million prize was only ever the spark. Everything she's built since is the fire.